Ether Insurance is dedicated to helping the businesses and people of Baton Rouge secure affordable insurance tailored to their needs. With our curated network of insurance carriers, we provide the best solutions for home, auto, life, and business coverage. Ether Insurance, powering and protecting your world.
2020 took a toll on all of us.
If you're going through a divorce or custody issue, let Dejan Law Office be by your side in 2021.
Dejan Law Office, fighting for what you deserve. 344-ANDY.
Brandon Lejean here, courtesy Buick GMC.
Call Brandon Lejean at 337-224-1867.
Come see us today, courtesy Buick GMC.
We showed you what the GOAT was last year when we beat y'all 50-7.
Let's go! One team!
Relax, big boy.
Team One podcast? One Team One podcast? Yeah, they did a good job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why is he so fat?
One Team One podcast.
One team!
What's up, guys? Matt and Jack here. Another episode of One Team, One Podcast, episode 58.
58. My guy, Jared Small.
Oh, Catholic High grad, right?
Yes, sir.
Taj Jones.
Taj Jones. That's a good one.
Tahj.
Yeah.
Taj.
Taj
yeah, I don't know that many 58s.
58.
I'm sure there's
Cardell
another
Thomas, 58.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay. If I would ever seen him play on the field, I probably would know that. Do we need a Cardell Thomas segment?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I think we've aired our grievances there.
Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We have a special guest coming in. We're going to have Brian Holland, Sports Director with NBC 33 Fox 44. He's going to join us in a bit, and we are going to talk about some LSU basketball and baseball. Crazy ass week.
Yeah. Just weird.
Yeah. And it seems short already. It's Thursday coming up. I haven't been at work this whole week. So tomorrow will be the first day physically at work. I haven't had internet until 3:00 today.
I was supposed to have a pretty big exam tomorrow, and school's still canceled tomorrow. So
That's right. There's, I think
I'm
even high
sure-
schools are canceled
yeah,
tomorrow too, which
yeah.
is nuts.
I doubt we're even going to have class on Friday either. So I don't know how they're probably going to try to make it all up on Saturdays or some crap, and none of the teachers are going to actually do it.
Dude, that's the worst.
Well, no, I actually kind of like when they do that, because all my teachers have always just been like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
I feel like we didn't have that many like school cancellations like y'all have.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like y'all are out for like a lot of things that we weren't out for.
Yeah, probably. We weren't supposed to have like any time off hardly this whole semester. And then this week hit and we did, but like we were only gonna have Tuesday of this week off for Mardi Gras.
Right.
And then like a
It
couple
turns
other
into
like
Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
Which
probably through Friday, probably the whole week.
I mean, you might as well at that point.
yeah.
You missed the whole 4 days. Tomorrow is fine though, I think.
Yeah.
Like the ice is melted.
We don't have spring break. We're not supposed to have spring break.
Okay.
And so like
So they've already canceled spring break.
Right. Yeah, no, they we weren't.
That
gonna
was a
have
long time
one-
ago.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to have one the whole time.
Okay.
But we're also getting off like a week earlier, so
Yeah.
it works out. We have an early summer, so
I've been bored.
yeah. No, this is technically a break for us, but it sucks because we
I had
can't do
to-
anything.
I had to. Well, we had power, thank God. So everybody that didn't have power, like I feel for you, man. Like
Yeah.
being in this kind of cold with no power, that sucks.
Oh,
So
it's brutal.
I hate saying like, oh well,
No,
I
it's
didn't
not
have internet
great.
and it was terrible. Like I get
Right.
it. Like
it's no, it's the same kind of feeling as like a hurricane comes through. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's not fun. Like
well,
yeah,
and this
we all
is
get
just
off work and school and shit, but it
yeah,
sucks.
and this weather was just gross, man. Like it makes me I love Louisiana summers compared to this stuff.
Yeah.
I'll take it all day, every day.
Definitely.
Like if it snowed, that's one thing. Like if it was a heavy snow, it would kind of been cool.
Yeah,
but-
it would have been fun. You know, have snowball fights, whatever.
But do you remember like when I don't know if you know too many of the snow days, but like after
I've
the
had a
snow
few.
melts, it's gross.
Yeah.
Like it's wet and sloppy and nasty. And this is kind of like how that was the entire time.
Right.
It was just
Yeah.
gross.
It's just like everything's slick, and you know, you can't even like you're not gonna like pick up some snow and form it into a ball or like roll up a snowman or anything like
Oh, that
that.
sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I thought we were getting this week, and then it's just no, it's not snow, it's ice. It's
Hey,
just an ice over.
Office episode that this reminded you of.
Office episode. Oh, okay. Jim and Dwight. were
Yes,
doing
the
the
snowball fight.
I love when he walks out and there's all the snowmen.
And it was like, the real present is fear. Merry Christmas. There's your Office reference for the week.
Bingo.
We're going to start doing some Office references here on 1T1 podcast. So we were supposed to have basketball was a reschedule. It was fantastic. I loved how he rescheduled, or not necessarily rescheduled. He scheduled Ole Miss in place of a few games, and it's a quad one on the road. He did it perfectly, and it was like, okay, we can beat Ole Miss. It's not an easy game, but it's
right. Well, I mean, it was going to be a big game though, because Ole Miss has been
they're hot.
Yeah, they're real hot right now. They've beaten. I know they beat Missouri,
but but it's not
who's
like
actually-
you scheduled Missouri on the road or you scheduled Florida on the road.
Sure.
Teams that have, Florida's beat us already once, but
Sure.
Missouri's pretty good.
I'm trying to think who was the other team that Ole Miss beat that was good. They beat Missouri.
Was it
I know.
Arkansas? I don't
Was it
remember.
I can't remember. It was might have been
Somebody beat by like
might have been. I think it was Tennessee. They
Okay.
beat Tennessee a
Okay.
couple weeks ago. They got like 4 or 5 straight wins going right now.
I loved the way that he scheduled a quad one like that on the road.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was a beatable game. Like I said, like I think that's perfect. And Will Wade's so smart with that. We were just talking about before we came on. Like you heard him talking about the NET on Moscona show.
Yeah.
And he's just so like brilliant with
Yeah.
that. But I didn't know that you were telling me before the show that he was talking about North Carolina.
Right. Yeah. So on Sunday, that was a rumor that came out on Sunday. I'm actually surprised you didn't hear about that. So it was rumored that we were trying to get a game in with North Carolina, and it sounded like it could have happened if we wanted it to, but the athletic department and the SEC were kind of like, hey, how about you play an SEC game instead, and that way you can play 14 SEC games instead of 13. and it kind of just worked out for everybody.
That would have been great to have a North Carolina game.
That would have been so cool. You go to Chapel Hill, and I know Ole Miss is hot right now, and North Carolina is definitely not playing their best ball. But North Carolina is probably going to finish higher than Ole Miss, so
yeah,
that ends up working out better for you in the NAT.
Right.
I
agree. Yeah,
awesome.
it's so weird. Ole Miss is going to be better than North Carolina in the NAT. It's just nuts to me.
Yeah,
that's just the way this year works. And
yeah,
North Carolina and Duke being down, it's just
Duke
weird.
Sucks.
I know.
And you saw Duke had that opt out.
Yeah, we can talk about that because John Brady is
I saw something
because he posted it saying in this just quitting, and I completely agree. So I think there is I think what he's saying is right, and then other people will chime in on his tweet because he's basically saying, look, if you're opting out, quote unquote, this late in the season, you're just quitting and you're saying it's opting out.
Yeah,
which is true. I get the reason why he's opting out.
Sure.
I don't have anything about that. I mean, obviously he's going to be a high round pick. I think he's Josh Jackson, right?
Something like that.
He's going to be a first round pick in the draft. So he'll get guaranteed money. They're having a terrible year at Duke. And he's just like, okay, well, since we're having such a bad year, I'm just going to quit and I'm going to concentrate on the draft. I get it. It's your prerogative, but he quit.
Yeah.
They're both right.
Yeah.
No, I get why he's doing it.
I think this opt-out thing is turning into a big deal.
It's a big discussion.
And, when people were opting out last season, I was like, oh, this is just a COVID thing. But the more it goes, the more I'm like, this is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
This is just going to be a thing, which sucks.
Well, and it was funny, Tyrus Thomas tweeted John Brady and saying, Coach, I respect where you're coming from, but this was a business decision. And John Brady's like, oh, I agree. You're both right. Yes, it was a business decision.
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah,
but he quit.
Yeah.
You can say that he quit. It's okay to say that he quit. But
I mean, sometimes it is a good business decision to quit.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm agreeing with that too. I don't see what the problem was with that. But it's just
it's not either or.
No, it's not. He kind of got blasted on Twitter about it. But
John
he stayed
Brady did?
he stayed strong. We need to have Coach Brady back on. We'll talk about that because he stayed strong on Twitter and a lot of people had his back, obviously, but there were some people that were saying you're out of touch and all this stuff. And it's like, is he though? I think I think people just have different perspectives now is the thing. Anyway, LSU baseball, I see Jude Sansing saying that in the chat. LSU baseball was scheduled to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It got moved to Saturday, Sunday, Monday. There is more weather coming in, but I think the way that they've moved this around, they're at least going to get 2 games in. I haven't checked the weather as of the last couple of minutes here, but
let's see. So on Saturday, it says the high is 52.
I think they're fine.
36.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I think they're fine for this weekend now.
Yeah, and it's saying after today, there's not supposed to be any more rain.
Friday, it was going to be very cold still.
Sunday, the high is going to be 64.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a great day.
It's going to be completely dry by then.
I think Friday was going to be bitterly cold.
Yeah, Friday is going to be as low as 23.
And I think Notre Dame and Air Force are still playing on Friday.
Oh,
so
right?
they're gonna play, but then LSU just moved back a day.
They're both just Air Force is from Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame.
They're like, this is nothing.
They're like, yeah, we'll play.
LSU
We're good.
softball played North Dakota today.
Yeah, they run ruled them, huh?
Huh?
They run ruled them.
Yeah, I think they did. LSU softball is going to be very good this year. They've already lost one game. I forget who they played this past weekend, but they lost one of the games. And the reason why they lost is because it got down to
was it Arizona?
No, Arizona's big time team. That would have been a big time series.
I don't
remember who it was either, but they lost the game and it wasn't expected for them to lose. But they were playing in 30-degree weather.
Oh shit.
And they were like, look, we don't know how to prepare for that. That's just not something we were planning on having to get ready for. But anyway, I think LSU baseball will get it in.
Right. I was surprised when this Ole Miss game got postponed because I was like, all right, well, hold on. The ice is supposed to melt by tomorrow. And then I checked the Oxford weather report.
Right.
And they're supposed to get more snow tomorrow.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I get it. But I also kind of feel like they still could have played the game.
Mm-hmm.
You could say no fans or something, but I still feel like they could have played it. I mean, teams up north figure out how to, get from one place to another through the snow and everything
I agree.
all the time. I don't know. I don't see how it would have been so difficult to get this game played.
Right. We got to figure out a way how to get the stream over to Brian. Think
right.
about that. I think it's here somewhere. I see you, Huey. Huey Miller entered the chat. Invite guests. Here we go. So
ice melting in Louisiana, but we're getting 6 to 8 inches in New Jersey tomorrow.
Yikes.
Is that what that said?
I think that's what it said.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know Huey's from the Northeast, I believe. So that's no bueno, my friend.
Yeah.
That's the stuff. Like, it's weird that here was well, I shouldn't do that. Here was actually colder than it was in Boston, if I remember that,
No shit.
that stat right. Yeah.
Holy shit.
I know. It's like
What the hell is that?
I know, it's crazy, man. I mean, nobody's used to that.
Yeah.
Especially here. And like, we don't have the infrastructure for that kind of stuff. And that's why everybody's kind of going crazy. But yeah, we got harassed on Twitter about that, like how
Fucking
we're
Bucknut.
I know, Sir Bucknut. I've gone ahead and blocked Bucknut. Everybody can be reassured that I've blocked them.
I think that's disappointing to everybody. I think everybody kind of enjoyed our little tiffs.
I don't like blocking people on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of a cop out.
I agree.
Or whatever, but
eventually, though, yeah, no, he started.
This was a little.
He started getting a little chippy, and
yes, it was a little much,
saying that we don't have jobs and stuff.
Right.
Which is just a little. Well, it's just untrue. So.
It is untrue. That I'm not a hardworking person or whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I'm in sales. I can probably drink during the day and sell advertising. I was outside yesterday in the cold. I was smoking a cigar and I had my earpiece in, and I closed a deal in the backyard smoking a cigar, and I felt like a man. So yeah, that's me.
Huey says thank you for blocking him.
Yes,
enjoyed it for a little for like a week.
And it went too far. Yeah, see, appreciate that. I needed that kind of reassurance from you, Huey, to make sure I made the right move here. Yeah. So what else is going on it feels like a weird week because of the weather, and like it's starting to get slower with LSU sports. It feels like, but I know the tournament is the big thing here. But I mean, coming off the Tennessee game last week, that was huge deal. Were you at the game? Did you go?
No,
you didn't go.
No, it was below 40 degrees, and I would have had to stand outside for 2 hours.
Right.
So
I know.
And I didn't have any friends who like could go with me
at the same time.
I was
so you would have been
by
solo?
myself for 2 hours,
standing around.
I got 4 layers of clothes on like that. No, that wouldn't have.
And then I would have just watched the game by myself. That would have sucked. That would have really sucked.
That would have. So that was the best game we played all year. Easily.
I actually the whole time I was thinking like, man, this is exactly how we played against Texas Tech.
Except we kept going the entire time.
And then we started to, just fall apart at the end, and then we got ourselves together and we didn't, completely.
It wasn't even that much though.
Yeah, I know. I started melting, and then
what did it ever get like under 10 at the last?
So they went on like a 5-0 run, and we turned the ball over like 4 times in a row.
Okay.
But I was like, man, that was only a 5-0 run. That could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
I think the biggest part of that was Josh LeBlanc blocking like 5 shots on that little spurt. So yeah. Dude, we're terrible against the press.
Against the press, which is weird because usually, well, actually, it's not weird. Yeah, the old rule is you're supposed to press teams that press, but
yeah,
I don't know why that would. Well, I know why it is because we don't have a true point guard. We haven't had a true point guard since Tremont Waters.
I think Javante actually does well against the press, but we always force the ball to Trendon.
Yeah, they like to do him going up the floor.
I would always think that Cam Thomas would be someone who is good against that kind of crap. But
Yeah.
he's battled too against the press, which is weird to see.
Yeah.
I think we need to keep Days up the floor on that, and he needs to help get the ball up the floor. Get the ball out of Trendon's hands in those situations.
Yeah.
Because he loves to fumble the ball away.
Well, and he likes to go with guys one-on-one, even at the mid-court line. And it's
and then they trap him, and then he gets just completely rattled.
You know who would own Trendon Watford? Our power just flickered. You saw that?
Yeah, it's
So who would own Trendon Watford if they were played against each other?
Who's that?
Josh LeBlanc. Josh LeBlanc would take Trendon Watford. he would eat his lunch at mid-court line. He would rip him every time.
He'd foul him a lot, though.
He probably would.
He fouls everybody a lot.
Darius is the X factor for sure. I completely agree with that. Made all the difference in the world. And then Javonte made. I mean, what is the deal with him against Tennessee? Like he completely turns into a different player against Tennessee.
He had a great week last week. You saw he was SEC Player of the Week.
Yeah.
I mean, he had those 11 assists against Mississippi State with a quiet 22 points.
Did you see what I posted a few days ago? It was I don't know if it was Brian or somebody else had posted this, but it was a clip of the Celtics, and it was showing like the coach for the Celtics, and in the way in the background was Tremont Waters on the bench, and he's like waving.
I saw you posted some crap. I was about to give.
He should be a senior this year.
Okay,
and he's on the bench, not playing.
You took a happy post, and then you made it, and you turned it into a sad post.
Yeah. That's what I do.
You just take our happiness.
That's how we do.
Why are you the way that you
are? Brian Holland's going to be joining us in just a second from NBC and Fox. Yeah,
about the things you choose to be.
Hey, we're going to get into some Office talk too. So if you guys have any Office favorite episodes or whatever, we're going to start talking about the Office a little bit more.
We need to start doing some trivia.
Yeah, and it's not football season anymore, so I feel like we need to branch out a little bit.
Relax a little bit.
Let's relax. Let's get loosey-goosey.
Yeah. We don't have to be completely just like stressed out all the time because football's not going on.
It's full football.
Football just gets us going.
Yeah, it gets me like really. My anxiety peaks. Now I'm like sleeping in late and stuff. I don't care about anything. Anxiety medicine, guys. Lexapro. Here's an ad for Lexapro. All right, before Brian comes on, we're going to take a quick little break. We're going to get Brian on, and we will be back in just a second with Brian Holland.
Ether Insurance is dedicated to helping the businesses and people of Baton Rouge secure affordable insurance tailored to their needs. With our curated network of insurance carriers, we provide the best solutions for home, auto, life, and business coverage. Ether Insurance, powering and protecting your world.
2020 took a toll on all of us.
If you're going through a divorce or custody issue, let Dejan Law Office be by your side in 2021.
Dejan Law Office, fighting for what you deserve. 344-ANDY.
Brandon Lejean here, courtesy Buick GMC.
Call Brandon Lejean at 337-224-1867.
Come see us today, courtesy Buick GMC.
Join us for a drink at the Durante Jones Bourbon Club. When Coach Jones isn't scheming defenses, he's scheming up new cocktails. Our cocktails may be old-fashioned, but his blitz packages aren't. So when you are feeling like you're in a zone and you need to switch to man, come to the Durante Jones Bourbon Club, where everyone is welcome except Bo Pelini.
Great Scott!
One Team, One Podcast, your trusted news source for LSU sports. Jackson Boss, Sports Director. And Matt Anderson, lead anchor. You know the place to go for breaking news. That's One Team, One Podcast.
All right, guys, we're back, and we are joined by Brian Holland, Sports Director, NBC 33 Fox 44. How you doing, Brian?
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
I can
Yes,
hear you.
sir.
You just came off the set, right?
Yeah. Just trying to get technology to work.
I hear you. So what were we talking about tonight? Postponements, I assume, right?
Oh man, I actually texted one of the baseball coaches today. I said, "This is the longest game week ever. I'm just worn out."
It's the longest week in general. Like,
Yeah.
did you have to do any weather reporting when this happens? I never asked you guys in the news department.
So we had a couple of our sports reporters that went out and did some reporting, did some photogging, some of that stuff.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I think some people still just want some balance. And so even if you're dealing with all the elements like we did this week, and obviously thoughts are with some of the people in Texas who are without power and really kind of struggling out there. But, even if you do have access to our news, sometimes you just got to get away for a minute or 2 minutes and, enter me and talk about LSU baseball, LSU softball, anything I can talk about where, a lot of these Zoom press conferences were canceled. So we didn't get to talk to a lot of these coaches and players this week.
So you went out today to the softball. So how was that? It was brutal. I saw a few tweets.
So for those of you who don't know, I'm a Houston boy. Okay. So it's the same climate as here in Baton Rouge. I mean, it's hot and muggy. We're not used to all this, right?
You weren't crying like Duce, were you?
There might have been some vetching. I don't know. some moaning, some tweeting. I like to tweet out the video of the "It's winter" lady, and that's kind of my bitching and moaning. Is like kind of getting that out and reminding myself, like, hey, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yes. So how cold did it get? 30s. They ruled them, thank God, right?
Yeah. Thankfully they scored a bunch of runs, so I got out of there. I didn't know that the inning after I left, though, that they would score 15 in one frame. Like,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. I think game time when I left my house, I live right around the corner from the box and from Tiger Park, so I just went straight from my house. I want to say it was right at 30 degrees.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's brutal.
There was some ice. There was ice all around. Some of it was melting, but there was a lot of ice still.
Yeah. So I'm worried about this weekend. I know it's melted now, but like this weekend for baseball, I think the weather. I'd have to talk. We call them the gunks. We call them gunks on the pod. We have to talk to gunks and see if it's going to be warm enough for baseball. And I think the way that they've done it now with the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, they've pushed it back enough to where it's going to be decent weather, right? Like not in the 20s and 30s for crying out loud, but like a little bit better for baseball conditions. Hitting off an aluminum bat in 30-degree weather has got to be brutal.
Yeah, what I saw was I want to say 50 degrees around game time, so not terrible.
Okay, no,
not
that's
terrible.
Not
yeah.
I was talking to a coach today who wanted to know where the wind was going. So Gunks is getting.
Do we know?
I'm sorry.
Is it going out? Is it going to left or what?
So Saturday, no. Sunday, a little bit, yes. And then Monday, not at all. It's going to be blowing in.
Okay, so this is where you go to Gunk's office and you say, hey, look, I need to know this. Where's the wind direction going? And he puts that together for you in like a little news packet.
Well, yeah, I got a text from someone who really, really needed to know. Let's just put it like that. And so I went to Gunks. Gunks got me straight. Now, here's something I didn't know. I had never heard of variable before. It's either north, south, east, or west, right?
Yeah.
But apparently it's going to be a little swirly on Saturday, so they can't even predict it yet.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So
That's
it might start off going out and then in the game going in or whatever.
Just depends on like what spot you are sitting in Baton Rouge. It could be anywhere.
So the guy who needed to know, let's see, he's balding on top,
Right here,
little bushy in the sides. Jacques Doucet likes to impersonate him.
Mm-hmm.
Likes to talk with his hands a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. That's the guy. Yeah. Okay, so Basketball. Let's talk about that a little bit. And you spent some time in Lubbock, so Texas Tech and all that was. How did you feel about that game in particular? Since it's like Texas Tech and LSU, did you have any feelings going into that game? Do you have any love for Texas Tech?
I mean, here's the deal. I didn't attend either university. You know what I mean? So I always tell people, they're like, well, you have to root for the Tigers. And I always respond with like, man, I root for their success because I want to go cool places.
Right.
But I think the advantage for me, maybe over some of the other reporters in town or abroad, wherever, is that if it's a loss, I'm not down in the dumps. I'm thinking about what's next, what happened, and I can kind of look at it and really kind of scout it objectively. Actually, same way with a win sometimes. Sometimes, some certain reporters really, really get high after a win. They are on cloud nine. You know what I mean? So like, I approach Texas Tech as like, man, I got to know some amazing people there.
Yeah.
And coming back for a second time here in Baton Rouge, man, I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted to get back to Baton Rouge. There's some really cool people here and some really cool sports, obviously, that we get to cover. I tell people all the time, a DMA rank is 1 to 210, right? New York City is 1. And you go down in 2, 3, 4. I want to say like Dallas is 4 and Houston is 7 or whatever. You go all the way down to like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I think is number 210. We're like right in that happy medium. We're at 94.
Right.
So we're top 100. That's what people talk about in the biz. They talk about, can I get to a top 100 or can I get to a top 60 or a top 30 market? Those are real benchmarks that people like me talk about.
Right.
Well, like this is market 94, but this is much bigger than market 94 when you talk about sports.
Right.
This is like the Oklahoma City of weather. I mean, you got stuff going on year long. You know what I mean? Like my buddies, like famously, who aren't in the SEC or Louisiana or Baton Rouge bubble, some of my buddies in some other conferences and some colleagues, they always like to joke that they have to mute me on Friday nights for Friday Night Heights because, man, I get in LSU gymnastics like, dude, they're number 2 in the country and they're spanking people. Like, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, like, this sports market is just different. And so when you talk about LSU versus Texas Tech, it's like, man, I really like Chris Beard. I mean, he's a good dude. I know a lot of people around that program. They do things the right way, And at the same time, man, you fall in love with the stories and the people here too, man. It's like picking between your kids. I don't have kids, but I assume that's pretty difficult. Thankfully, I just get to cover. I don't really have to root for them. Like when you're covering something, a lot of people don't know this too. Is like you don't really get to watch the game. A lot of time I'll have to go home and watch the game 2 or 3 more times to really kind of pack in what happened because you're working while you're covering the event.
So tell us about some crazy work times for you, especially for, let's say, 2019. So let's talk about 2019 LSU football first, because that's just on everybody's mind. What are some like memories that you remember that are just completely oddball things that happened to you, like reporting on a game or whatever?
Yeah, it gets a little kooky because that team was just so different. They were just so different, man. And I just try to tell people, like, best man at my wedding, he is an Oklahoma State alum.
Okay.
But he is the sports director and anchor at the ABC station in Oklahoma City. His name is Brian Keating. And so when we found out we were going to be at the semifinal together in Atlanta, and I had just been there, basically the week before, and I was telling him about, I forget the bar off the top of my head, but the LSU bar
in Atlanta.
In downtown.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I was actually there.
You were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is.
That's why you don't remember.
That's right.
Yeah, that's probably why.
No, I just remember them doing the like all sorts of chants. I don't know what the language restrictions are here on, but the Roll Tide, the Coach O Roll Tide. What?
Oh, yeah.
They were doing that back and forth.
Okay.
And it was just getting sideways quickly. And so I was telling them, like, hey man, I know all the spots, and I can't wait to see how Oklahoma because you know how it is.
Yes.
Each media. This is why I'm a college basketball voter, because they told me when they gave me a vote in the AP poll, they go, we got to have one of our own. Like, you have to represent. Like, each media bubble, that like this is a huge blind spot in today's media. They only cover obviously those like select teams, and rarely do you get a media member that just I'm gonna sit down and watch Pac-12 After Dark, and I'm gonna watch the Stanford game from earlier, and I'm gonna, you know what I mean, like. I love doing that in certain sports, but at a certain point, you have to go to work, you got a family, you got things to do, you got a life, right? So, like the Oklahoma City media and my buddy in particular were coming in going, "Oh, dude, you're underestimating Oklahoma here." Like, look, Jalen Hurts, hey, with Lincoln Riley, okay, I know what Jalen Hurts can. Okay, like, don't lecture me on what Jalen Hurts can do. So, it was interesting. I just seen him, Joe Burrow do the magic that he did in that one play against Georgia. I'll never forget that.
Yep. Yeah. I've talked to Chris Blair about that play in particular. And that was a story that he had where that's when he turned around and he was like, okay, y'all need to start getting the Heisman campaign like tweeted out and all that. And I think it was Brandon Barrio was also I've talked to, and he said the same thing. Like, yeah, it was immediate. Like, we knew it at that point. We had to send something out on social media right at that moment. That play is just like that. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
The best play I've ever seen in person.
Yeah,
not joking.
I mean, I've never heard a press box just like the air kind of gets sucked out of it. Like, it's literally like a physical. I felt it because it was like everyone breathed in at the same moment. Like, oh, like, is he really going to do this and then throw it? And then he threw it. Jets came down with it, and like I literally heard like I heard like pins and like something being thrown. Like, people were like oddly upset. You're not supposed to cheer in a press box. But I'm telling you, like, I've just never heard a press box do any of that. And so that's a magical moment. But then, the moment I'll probably always remember is like my buddy coming down. He was level up and further down on press row, and it was just before halftime, and the score was what it was, and he literally just goes, "Well, I'm going to sit over here." And I said, "Why? Don't you have like, your news director beating down your back and this and this?" And then he goes, "My work day is over." he just stopped work. He was just like, there's nothing else to do.
That's awesome.
That was during the Oklahoma game?
Yeah, Oklahoma game. Tell us about the national championship game. Any cool stories? Mike T was there, huh?
Mike Teasy, yeah, we love Mike T. He's the pro.
He told me a story the other day about his. We were talking about. I told you this. We were talking about sneakers, and like he's got me all into it. I don't know. Next thing I know, I'm gonna be selling them online or something. I don't know.
Probably so.
He's got me all into it. He had some kind of like pair of sneakers on. I don't know if it was a national championship game or another game, but people kept walking by and they were like looking at his sneakers. I think it was LSU equipment manager, probably Greg Stringfield, was like looking at him and he was like, "Where did he get those from?" And like eventually the guy never said anything to him, but Mike was just like, "You can ask me about them. I made them online." Like, and it became a whole conversation piece about his sneakers that he was wearing online, our camera guy.
Let me tell a really quick story about Mike Thompson. He's obviously, to frequents of your show, a great photog here in Baton Rouge. But, there are a lot of great professionals here who do local news and make a good living out of it. And Mike Thompson, so we know who the best people are at photogging, the reporters and all that. We're on the road in Nashville one time, and I literally forgot. I forget what I forgot, to be honest with you. I think it was like hair gel, So I don't know.
You like it high,
and he just goes
high in the front guy. Yeah, so you need that.
I forgot something, and then he was like, "Oh, don't worry, I got that." And then like I was like, "Oh crap, I haven't drank any water." He like literally just like throws open the door. There's like this row of waters in the back seat. He's like, "I got you, bro." And I just look over at one of the main photogs for WAFB, And I was just like, did you just see that? And he goes, best in the biz.
Yeah.
He just conceded.
No, yes, I completely agree. We got a question in the chat. Can we ask if you take notes during the games, and if so, how in depth are they? So, are you just completely just taking like tons of notes during the game? That way, you can come back and kind of relive it on air.
So no, but here's why. Okay. Now we have a panel where we can see a lot more stats than probably the average Joe can, and you know, things that come in the stadium. And then we have a service where they bring around a sheet every quarter that updates the stats.
Right.
So pretty plugged in. But there are a lot of those guys who are like old reporter little roll. It's like, a quarter of the width of a regular notepad, and they're just furiously scribbling. I did that.
Feinswag.
Sorry?
Lee Feinswag.
I don't sit next to him at LSU games.
Okay, so yeah, he would be one.
I was thinking, do you know who Ed Daniels is in New Orleans?
Yes.
Ed Daniels, Andrew Joke, former colleague of mine, he does that.
Okay.
So like there are a lot of them, and it's not just the the old farts, so to speak. But I found that when I did that, it just never stopped. Like I could never contextualize things because I was just, and then you're scribbling so fast. Can you read the writing? All that stuff. So really, like literally, the finer points to me are either on the stat page or what I'm telling you on Twitter during the game. Because I'm not the play-by-play guy who's like the beat writer who's like Joe Burrow 5 yards.
Right.
Hashtag LSU. I hate doing that. I hate seeing that, to be honest with you. I want to know what you actually think of what you're covering. Like you're the professional doing this. You've seen a lot of stuff. What does that mean? What does that mean to my team? What does that mean to you? Where is this historically? Stuff like that, like quick hitters. And so a lot of times when I'm trying to think of, okay, what happened? Let me go back and summarize the game after I get done with the pressers. You're out on the field and you're like, what am I about to say? How do I wrap all this up? And I'll go back to some of those quick hitters and go, I forgot about that first quarter play. I forgot that, this turnover in the third quarter. I forgot this swing in momentum. Maybe that was the play of the game. So that's really kind of my notes. And if you follow me, you probably think that I tweet too much during a game. So
I don't see that at all. Like, and I love this guy that I'm about to say, but like Scott Rabelais, love him. I think he's fantastic. And but he's one that I think he tweets too much. It's too factual. It's not enough. Like, okay, what do you think about this? Because I mean, he's an advocate writer. I think he's a big opinion piece guy. I want to hear that from him, and not so much the play-by-play. We'll have him on, and I'll tell him that.
It is your birthday.
Huh?
It is your
birthday. It's a statement of fact. Yeah. All right. Take us back. So you've covered a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What was the Super Bowl? Where was it? All that kind of stuff.
So I always forget the Roman numerals. I always forget the numbers. But it was the one in New Orleans. I was at a different station at the time, but when Joe Flacco became the elite quarterback somehow.
And Colin Kaepernick. Fantastic.
The
game.
lights went out.
Kaepernick. Yeah, the lights went out.
Lights went out. I've got a really funny story about that.
Oh,
so they don't tell you this, but like everyone and their dog can cover the Super Bowl. If you have a blog, if you have a podcast, you could be approved to go cover the Super Bowl.
We can do it.
What the hell?
We can be the ones.
Next year.
Now, maybe not during COVID as much, but once we kind of get through that, hopefully next season.
Next year.
I mean, it's literally like you'll look and you're just like, who is that? Like they like to brag about the number of people who are there.
Well, media day too, right? Like when they bring everybody in and like ask all the stupid questions, we could be those guys. We could be those stupid question guys, the Barstool guys.
It's terrible, but you could be stupid question guy. Yes.
Yeah. That's right up there. This is what I'm born for.
So the problem with that is obviously you're not getting the press box unless you are, Ed Werder. So I've got no pull. I'm a little local Baton Rouge reporter, and I'm covering the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And so they basically have these underneath the stands are just basically huge warehouses where they store stuff.
Right.
So they completely clean out all those storage, just huge like ballrooms basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they just line of computers, line of the where you can plug in the little strips.
Okay.
Yes.
And then they'll put TV. So you're literally underneath the stands in a dark room and just like updating the web, tweeting, but you're watching on the screen just like everyone else is at home. So I'm sitting there.
Silent in there?
I'm sorry?
Is it like dead silent in there?
No. I mean, they'll bring in food and stuff. It's catered. So people are talking. It's just it's gray walls.
Right.
It's not cool. And you always have a color to your credential, and they'll even put on the floors, they'll have tape of where you can go. So like if your access ends here, then your tape goes into that room and you got to go sit down and find a spot or whatever.
Right.
So I'm in there and I'm kind of bummed because I didn't know the whole shenanigans. I didn't know the rules. And so I'm in there. I'm just like, I'm updating a website, and like no one's gonna click on this website. Everyone's watching the Super Bowl. That's why they get 50 ratings,
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there. I'm kind of bummed. In walks Josh Elliott. And Josh Elliott at the time was big. Like he had just gotten GMA. I want to say.
Yeah, he was. He won that show on ESPN, right? Like it was a sports reporter show or something like that. It was like a game show. Like he won the contest, and then he's like a reporter, and then then he moves from ESPN to GMA, right? Yeah.
So he was big. He was big at this point, and I'm like, it's him and his entourage, or producers, whoever it was.
Okay.
He's got a little crew though, and like I'm sitting basically, kind of across from some buddies or whatever, but they sit right next to me. He goes, "Hey, what's up, man? We're gonna watch it right here." I guess I was really close to the TV. All right, cool. So I just sat there and talked ball with him. It kind of talked about the industry, stuff like that. I remember he was really big into the Star Wars commercial that was on for that next Star Wars that was coming out. But then the lights go out at halftime.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, what do we do? What can we do? I don't even know where I can go. So he like looks at his producer and his cameraman. He goes, "Grab your camera, we're going." And I was like, "All right, I'm going with you." You know what I mean? Like, if he's gonna get the access, then I'm gonna be the guy like right next to him, acting like I'm with him in his crew, and I'm gonna shoot it too. So I grab my camera. I'm like, "Let's go!"
Really big break right here.
Yes, Holland's big break.
Yes.
So we go running, right? And I'm like, they're gonna like clear it out. Like, bring in Josh. You can go anywhere. Let's go, He was literally stopped probably before where I could get to. And so we're like not even to the tunnel before we get stopped. And I'm like, damn, Josh Elliott just got stopped? Like, okay, well, whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, even at the Super Bowl, it's pretty tight security. You don't get to do a whole lot, but that was pretty cool. Just kind of being around him, getting asked and bounce some questions off of him, and experiencing a Super Bowl in the same house for the first time, because I've never actually had a team make it to the Super Bowl. I grew up in H-Town. My team took off for Nashville.
Man, what do you think about that? With so your team is actually the Titans. They were the Oilers. Do you have any allegiance to the Texans at all?
I love the Texans. Right now, they're basically self-imploding. The story behind it is like obviously the Astrodome was kind of, even at that point in the late 90s, was kind of dilapidated. So the owner was trying to get a new stadium out of it, and he only wanted public money. And Houston was kind of hardballing him. He said, "All right, I'm going to take my toys and go to another sandbox." And so I will never cheer for the Titans ever.
Okay.
Except for Aaron McNair. I loved him as a kid.
All right. So funny story. I was a big Astros fan growing up. I mean, it's the closest team to Baton Rouge, obviously, but it was back in the days of like Glenn Davis and Alan Ashby and like
Yeah.
old school Bass. I forget his first name. Leadoff hitter. I forget his name, but and Jose Cruz. So he had a lot of big names. My first game that I ever went to was at the Astrodome, and it was the Astros and the Dodgers. Fernando Valenzuela was pitching, and it was like huge. And when I was there, I mean, I had no idea it was like Fernando Mania and all that going on, and I had no idea what that even was. But now looking back, I was like, okay, this is a huge game that I was actually at. But when they decided they were going to trade away all those players, they traded away Davis. My favorite player was Glenn Davis. They traded him away. They traded away Alan Ashby was another one that was a favorite of mine, and Mike Scott and all these pitchers that they had. I hated them until Bregman came.
Yeah, Bregman.
Bregman saved the Astros for me. I know. But yeah, it was a favorite team of mine.
So growing up, man, like for me, there were two just colossal figures in my life as a sports fan. And I was one of those kids that was like waiting for the cartoons to end so that college football could start on a Saturday. Like I was not normal. At 5, I hated cartoons because I wanted to watch. My mom is from Michigan, so I wanted to watch the Wolverines, right?
Okay.
But growing up in Houston, two colossal figures. Hakeem Olajuwon, I mean, just huge. Just he's the man. And Nolan Ryan. And there was one time I got to go see, I believe it was his last season. He was with the Rangers at least. It was an exhibition. My mom somehow got us tickets because it was sold out. We were in the outfield, cheap seats. But the cool view from the cheap seats really was as soon as first pitch came out, it was like those old school flashes.
Yeah.
And it was just a sea of lights. And you know, he was probably staying on a year too long, but he was just like Nolan was the man. Like I got to be in the house when Nolan unfortunately pitched against the Astros, but I got to watch him pitch.
That's awesome. Super cool. All right, so you told us about the Super Bowl like lights going out fiasco. What other kind of like bizarre moments that you've covered in the past that we can kind of talk about?
Whew.
I know. Good one, right?
I remember one in Lubbock where Tubby Smith just left. Actually, I had to cover that, and I had to cover Tommy Tuberville just leaving in the middle of the night.
Okay. Yes, I remember that. He went to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Weird.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I went to school at a little college out in West Texas called Abilene Christian.
Yep.
Abilene Christian has never really been good at football or, I mean, really basketball until the last couple of years, but not very good at athletics unless you're talking about track, which is a crazy anomaly. We can talk about that at a different time. But the only time ACU was ever good at football was under head coach. His name is Chris Thompson. Mm-hmm. And on that team were NFLers somehow. We're still Division II. So anyways, years later, I covered that. You know what? I covered a game. There was a playoff game. It was 93-68 was the final. Like they had some crazy talent on the offensive side of the ball for ACU randomly. Yeah. And a bunch of those guys ended up in the NFL. But anyways, Chris Thompson ended up being the offensive line coach at Texas Tech eventually. When Tommy Tuberville left during a recruiting visit at a dinner at the 50-yard line steakhouse in Lubbock. I used to live right around the corner from the steakhouse. Chris Thompson was the guy at dinner who had to tell them that Tommy Tuberville had left and that he wasn't coming back. So I've had some story times with him. And just, I mean,
how weird is it that Tommy Tuberville is a U.S. senator now? To you specifically,
it's really weird. You know what's really ironic is people would be like, "Hey, what's Tuberville like when he first got there?" You do these interviews, and it was like it was a little Les Miles-esque, where you could ask him the most, just like hardened question, and be like, like remember Sports by Brooks?
Yes.
Sports by Brooks had a report out back in the day that Tommy Tuberville was leaving for, I forget, it happened a lot. Let's just say that. he was dipping his toes in some other waters and seeing what was what.
That was back in
And-
Auburn. He was doing the same thing then. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is nothing new with Tubbs. So I remember asking him some of these hard questions, some of the other reporters too, and it was like duck on or water on a duck's back, where it was just like nothing really kind of ever stuck, and he just kind of played off. So when people would ask me like, "Who is he? What's he like?" Like I literally said, I remember saying this over and over and over to people. I said, he's much like a politician, where it just he just weasels his way out of whatever you're talking about. Like we asked him about one of these coaching openings. He's the head coach at Texas Tech. They're at practice, and we're asking him about it. He goes, "Now, why would I ever want to go anywhere but here? I mean, look at this beautiful weather." It was like 75 and sunny, but look at this beautiful weather. I mean, Lubbock, Texas, and just these people and blah, blah. Like you didn't answer the question.
And it's very different than hypothetically like a Cincinnati weather or something like that.
He just kind of seemed very. What's a nice word for it? Slippery.
Slippery. That's a good one. That's
Sleazy.
better than sleazy.
Sleazy's not a nice
Slightly
word.
better than sleazy. Okay, so any Les Miles or Ogeron stories that you can tell us that are like under the radar, like nobody would really hear this in an interview or anything like that, like something that's been said or slipped out?
You know, I did compare him to Tuberville. That's probably a bad comparison because I actually liked Les Miles.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. He's a great person. You may not agree with his offensive style, but great person.
He seemed like a good person to me. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I remember when I met him. I go up to him and I go, "Hey, I'm the new reporter at such and such station," and whatever. And then like one of my buddies goes, "Hey, his mom is a huge Michigan fan," which obviously he played offensive line at the University of Michigan.
Right.
And I'm like, "Hey, Dick, like, why do you have to bring that up?"
Wait, who was it? Let's talk about who it was. Do you remember?
I know you know who it was.
Okay. I will guess that later.
It will not surprise you. But so anyways, no, I just
right. Go ahead.
I was like, why are we bringing that up? Like I'm trying to make a good impression here. Let's not talk about, obviously, he's been linked to that job and taking that job from this job. Let's not talk about that. That's what's going on in my mind. I just go, yeah, she may or may not have told me to tell you, go blue,
Right.
And he goes, "Hey, it's okay." He saw that I was like, what the hell just happened? He's like, "It's okay. I still say go blue. I just spell it with an E-A-U-X these days."
There you
Oh
go.
God.
Nice. That is like a politician.
That's very Les Miles-ish.
Yeah.
Very timely
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's got a certain Tubbs to him.
Yeah. Okay. So any Ogeron stories? Anything that what I love about Ogeron is how open he is compared to Les Miles. Obviously, he'll give you all the answers in a press conference. Sometimes he gives you a little too much, in my opinion. The Eric Gilbert stuff is just like I don't know what you're doing and you're trying to cover this kid, but like you've given way too much information out there. And now the kid is under fire for stuff that probably didn't even happen. Like, I get it, but it's like, I do appreciate that he's open and like wanting to get the information out and very, very forthcoming with information. But anything with Ogeron that he's kind of giving you a little wink or a nod?
Yeah, I like how you're like dancing around and like he's very forthcoming. Like, oh, you mean he just tells us the truth sometimes? Like, like we weren't used to that.
Yeah, it's not like an upper leg injury. It's he hurt his thigh. He's going to be out for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Which leg, Les?
Yeah,
one of them.
Yeah,
One of them.
one of them.
I mean, there's a reporter here who's like, they told me the other day, they were like, I would have loved to cover Les Miles. I said, would you love to never have like any of your questions answered? Because that's basically what it was. Like, pretty sure the Columbus Day rant was like one of my questions, and I'm like, what's this guy doing? Where's he going?
Wait,
maybe it's an intro.
Was it a question that you had?
I
started that.
Look, I remember I don't know if that's one of them, but I remember like several times my mom being like, hey, Les Miles was on Sports Center. And I go, yeah, it's my question. He didn't answer a single sentence, like I asked him about the defensive line. He's talking about St. Patty's Day, like.
Oh, this is going on a clip right here. This will be I'm going to
entirely
clip this
different
one.
thing altogether.
Yeah, we'll get this.
Yes. No. Hey, Coach O, like seriously, it kind of I think it shocked some of us as reporters. Just like, is this true? Or because like we would like going back to Les Miles, like there's a famous trip where like he said that so and so was going to play at Florida, and the guy didn't even get on the airplane.
Right.
And so like what stands out to me is here's my deal, and maybe this is short-sighted because I think a lot of this comes from seeing what Mike Leach did to the Big 12 in the early 2000s. It was like, look, we may lose this game, but I'm going to be who I am. And I think of Coach O kind of the same way. Maybe not from the football field. I think obviously he's learned that he needs to lean on good people, hire good people and let them do their thing. But personally, and when he's dealing with the media, he is who he is.
Yep.
So will there be missteps? Yeah, I'm sure. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's going to put his head on the pillow and go, I'm still the boy from South Lafourche, like
right.
I'm still Ed Orgeron. I'm still my mother's son, and I greatly respect how he is forthcoming, I'd say 99% of the time. Sometimes you just have to, in this day, you just have to let it go. But I'll tell you this, I was in some of those locker rooms at the road opponents. They're a little thin. And so you'll be waiting in the media holding area and you will hear every word of Coach O in some of those post-game locker rooms. Yeah. And that's a lot of fun. I'm sure to be a player under Coach O, especially obviously in the 2019 run, but you know, you come off a big win, man. I don't think that there's anyone else that I want to see. Because here's what I think people need to get over. Can we all just agree to get over the coach dancing in the post-game locker room? Yes. Like that is so overdone. I want Coach O yelling in my face and using profanity when he does after a huge win on the road. I don't want to see Mike Gundy try to Dougie. Okay.
Right. Right.
I'm done with it.
I'm actually cool with a leaked video of him. Yeah. Roll Tide. What, I love all that stuff.
Well, it started with the Auburn game after Cade York made the game-winning field goal, and he said something like, "Yeah, fuck them," or something like that. And I think he was talking about the media or something like that, or maybe he was talking about Auburn.
Yeah,
can't really remember what it was.
When I was telling the story about thin walls, that's the exact spot I was thinking of.
Yeah, I vividly. I think it was Devin White that leaked that video or something like that. I can't remember who it was, but
so tell us about 2020 and how that went. You said something earlier about, he's learned how to get coaches on his side, and I completely agree with as far as the hires that he's made. He's made the Jake Peetz hire. I absolutely love it. The more I start diving into Jake Peetz like YouTube videos of him coaching up and stuff like that, I'm like absolutely in love with this guy. I don't know how long we're going to keep him, but I'm in love with him. Durante Jones is another one where he's just very intellectual, just like Dave Aranda, and you're going the polar opposite way from Bo Pelini. But tell us about 2020, where it seems like he made the wrong decisions as far as his assistant coaches go. Maybe not so much with Ensminger, but he didn't have that young gun with Ensminger. He had a Scott Linehan instead. And you may know more about Linehan than we even do, but it just seems like the culture fit was just not there, and it was borderline disaster is what we had heard. Man, if you would have lost that Florida game, how bad things could have been. It's kind of what was flirting in the ether there. But what do you say about the 2020 season and kind of like from where we were to then, and then I know where we are now, and it feels like it's a 180.
Here's a differentiation that I want to make about coaching. I said earlier that be who you are and go out there and if it's not good enough that day, at least you put your best foot forward and you didn't go, well, maybe we should put a bunch of window dressing on this and really try and Boise State our way through more than one game. I don't think that that's a sustainable philosophy. What you can do though is understand who you are, and obviously the personnel that you have. Sure, you had a lot go to the NFL after 2019, and obviously some guys that should have come back if we look at how their career has gone.
Especially the offensive line is one of the things that we were looking at.
Yeah. But smart coaches, and I heard a really smart coach kind of tell me after I, stopped hitting the record button and just kind of offhand goes like, well, good coaches don't walk in with just one game plan. So you can understand who you are, where your strengths are, and what your personnel is, but you need to have game plan 1 and game plan 2 and game plan 3 and game plan 4. Now, when do you implement those? When do you go to the next one? Well, that's what makes a great play caller and a great coach, great play caller, great coach. And so, there are little keys where you can recognize, you just go, our left tackle isn't going to get it done today. So we have to jump to game plan number 4, but at least you have that in your back pocket. LSU, at least defensively, did not seem to have that in their back pocket at times. Right. But I think we're kind of underselling the offense. Like, I think you're 100% right in saying like Jake Peets is going to be a breath of fresh air and he's going to do a lot of great things. But, I didn't think the LSU offense was near close to the problem. We saw Texas A&M win plenty of SEC games last year with, a good offense, not a great. You don't have to be 2019 LSU, to win a bunch of games and go to a New Year's Six bowl.
Right. I think it was natural for us coming off it's the weirdest thing ever. As a lifelong LSU fan, I've never had this happen, where 2018 to 2019, I had to shift my focus into realizing what kind of team we were, which was we weren't going to be defense dominant. We were going to be offense dominant, which means we were just going to have to score more points than the other team. And it took me 5 games in the season to kind of realize, okay, this is who we are. Nobody's ever going to catch up with us because we're just going to score touchdowns. And if we just keep scoring touchdowns, the Ole Miss game, we talk about this all the time. Right. The Ole Miss game that year was like that epitome of that, where everybody was dogging our defense. And I'm like, dude, we were up by 30 at halftime.
Yeah.
I don't care how many yards that quarterback had. We still won by 20 points. It was easy win because our offense is so good. Well, it was then the 2020 year, I found that fans were looking at the offensive problems more than they were looking at the defensive problems at times. Mississippi State was obvious where it was. I honestly, even after the Mississippi State game, some people were still I still talk about Miles Brennan all the time in that game, where I felt like Miles Brennan just wasn't prepared, wasn't ready to play. But I'm like, it doesn't matter. If we give up 623 passing yards, we're going to lose every game. It doesn't matter what we did offensively in that game. But it was just a weird way of we're switching our brains over and over as LSU fans this last couple of years. And it's such a weird thing for me because we've always been that defensive dominant team, and now we're switching back again. I feel like this year is going to be another example of like our offense is going to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And our defense is going to be good enough to limit as much as we can. But this time and age of college football, it's like who is really stopping anybody at this point?
Yeah, especially last year.
Yeah, and I think we've been hearing a lot about that, Brian, which is the spread offense and just how it's changing the game. And like, if you had our defense in 2019 wasn't the best defense ever, but they limited teams enough to where our offense could overcome anything.
Yeah, I mean, one thought though too I have, you were describing it, and I was thinking Ole Miss the entire time. That Ole Miss game 2019, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with it is like, dude, you finally have really good coaches kind of stacked throughout, because a lot of time, like, the SEC was dominant still, but they had a lot of coaches that would just roll out the balls, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got a really, really good spread of coaches, I think, in the Southeastern Conference. Like, some weeks they're just going to get you, man. Like team, Lane Kiffin's going to get you, Every once in a while, the Pirates going to get you. So you need to have a complete team. And like we talked about, like with voting, with the basketball AP poll, a lot of times it's like, I tell people, I'm like, yeah, but your team may have a ceiling of being a top 8 team. But maybe your floor is pretty good, but like, that doesn't mean that I should vote you top 5 just because you're on a winning streak. Like, your team can only win in one way.
Right.
And LSU, if you have this much talent and you've got the best coaching staff, that means that you need to be able to win in different ways. And that's what makes it an elite team truly elite.
Yes. Right. I agree with that completely.
I agree with what you said about the coaches too, because like you think about the SEC West alone, and the worst offense in the SEC West is probably Arkansas, and their offensive coordinator is Kendall Briles. Like, I don't enjoy playing them. I mean, they're scheming up crazy shit all the time. So
that's true. Okay, so we'll wrap it up a little bit here, Brian. I know you've probably been at work forever today.
Good. As long as y'all want to go, we can go. So
last things though, there are some announcements that you're probably going to be making for baseball, right? So we're talking about like before the game kind of situation? I remember hearing something about walk-ons possibly. Is it something in the works?
Yeah, we've got something in the works.
Am I breaking this?
I think you just let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we've always wanted to partner with walk-ons. That looks like that's just about a done deal. Obviously, we got to get it done before Friday. I think we're still going to go out there, even though we're postponed to opening night being Saturday, or opening day being Saturday. So we're really excited about that. Man, Brandon Landry has always treated us so well. He knows our commitment to, LSU and local sports, man, and he's always been behind us. That guy is salt of the earth type. So we're really excited about being out there. Hopefully every Friday we're gonna have a formal announcement. Hopefully here in the next 24 hours.
Perfect. I'll retweet that also, and then I'm trying to get in touch with Brandon also on some other stuff too. So hopefully we can kind of all be a part of that, and then we'll even do we'll bring our flag out there.
Perfect.
We'll do all kinds of stuff. You're the official sports director of One Team One Podcast now, Brian. Yeah, man, we appreciate your time, buddy. We'll have you back on for sure. I know there's going to be plenty of opportunity to get you back on. And
I feel like we didn't even talk really much about LSU basketball, like there's a lot to cover. So
there's a lot. I know, and I feel like this week is the perfect week to not talk about it though. Like Ice Storm week, I think is the week that. Okay, I'm ready to. We were talking about The Office earlier. We just want to talk about like something different than sports.
Yeah, just take a breath. Yeah,
I probably fall asleep to The Office at least every other night.
Yes, so that's your go-to. Like on, and then you're going through all the episodes. You used to play Office Roulette.
You mean
Y'all used
trivia? You mean?
No, y'all used to play Office Roulette, where you would scroll through all the episodes, and then you would an episode.
I did used to do that.
And that's the episode that you watched that night.
Yes.
So it's The Office and it's Cheers. Those are my go-tos.
I started trying to watch Cheers, and
that's
then
a good
stopped.
one.
I got through season 1, and then I couldn't keep going.
I actually got into a battle with Rivers Huey on Twitter. We were going back and forth on Office gifts, and
Nice.
we were trying to see who could outlast the other. And then I just gave up at the end of it. I was like, "She's too good. She got me." So we appreciate it, brother. We'll get you back on soon, and then I'll see you probably at work tomorrow. Actually,
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Brian Holland, great interview with Brian.
Good.
We'll cut up a whole bunch of those and we'll post them out. We
Covered
appreciate
a lot there.
Yeah, man. We appreciate everybody sticking in with us tonight. And then
Oh, wow, it's 7:40.
I know, man. We've been on for a while.
Sheesh.
It just seemed like it was
Wow, he was on for an hour.
yeah, he was Brian's great, man.
Wow.
I work at just full disclaimer. I
can't
work
believe
at
that was an
NBC and Fox. I'm in the sales area, and the sales and news areas don't usually get along great. And that's for every news station.
Local,
but
yeah.
I can go in there and sit in their sports office and just chat with those guys. Chess and Boucher. We'll have Chess on too. We can have all those guys on. They're all great. Really good people. They've seen a lot of stuff. And
Jude asked if anybody likes Frasier.
Frasier is I love Frasier, offshoot of Cheers, obviously. Frasier is cool because it's a radio show too. So he's doing like a radio therapy
Yeah, I
show.
actually still need to watch Frasier.
You've never seen
it.
Frasier? Oh man, that was like appointment viewing on NBC
Really?
back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, you had to
Nice.
watch Frasier.
Okay.
We'll have to do like a top 10 like 9 shows that were sitcoms that you have to watch, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially now, I'm all into sneakers, by the
I'm
way.
in.
So we'll have to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They had a specific Jordan shoe for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and before they even came out, Will Smith wore them on the show.
Okay.
And it blew up and becoming this big thing. Everybody was like, "What shoes were those?" This is like pre-internet and all that. It was like a biggest deal ever.
Gotcha.
All right,
Yeah,
guys,
we should do that. We should just like pick a show,
like
that
a
I
show, and
haven't-
we'll
that I
just
haven't seen, and I'll just like go through it. And
that's perfect for
we'll talk
us.
about
Like
it.
I'm the older guy, you're the
Yeah.
younger guy. Like
Uh-huh.
I can just show you old shows to
Do you
go
watch
through.
WandaVision?
Yes, love WandaVision.
Are you caught up?
I am caught up.
Oh,
Weirdest
dude.
thing about WandaVision, we almost
Spoiler alert,
all right.
dude. That episode 6 was phenomenal.
All right, so we watched the first episode, and me and Summer looked at each other, my wife. We were just like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is it?
Weird.
It was just not what I expected.
The first 2 episodes are just weird.
We didn't even get through the first episode, and we stopped it. We were like, this was terrible.
No, I knew.
Well,
I
so
knew
all
it
right,
was going
all right.
somewhere
So
because it's the
2 weeks later,
Yeah.
we see that I see something on Twitter about like how it's different, and I'm like, we need to go back and watch it.
Mhm.
So we go back and watch it, and we're like, oh my god, like this is like fantastic.
Yeah.
But you had to like go through the first 2 episodes
Yeah.
and kind of like you had to get through those
Well,
to
I
get
liked
to the
it.
last.
I liked it anyway, even though I had no clue where they were going with it. I was just like, for the first 2 episodes, because it's all sitcom for the
Yes,
first 2
but I thought it
episodes.
was like that was all it was.
Yeah, but I just felt like because they had like the scene with like the
Everything
the,
changes or whatever.
the little color thing. It was a helicopter.
Yes.
And they
I
had
didn't even see that part though.
Yeah,
That was the thing.
Okay. Yeah, well, they had that in there. I was like, okay, something weird's about to happen at some point. And now that you know that, like, she's controlling all of it, it's so cool.
It's a very cool show.
Yeah.
You guys give us any more shows that you want us to watch. We'll post that on
let's do
Twitter.
that.
That'll be a great thing on Twitter. We
Yeah.
can like post that and say, what shows do you want us to watch? We'll
Mhm.
go give a recap
Yeah,
of them.
we'll watch episode 1 of that show, and if we like episode 1, we'll continue watching it. If we don't like episode 1,
No, but this is like
No.
old shows. Like, I mean, have you watched Saved by the Bell and stuff?
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, you gotta watch Saved by
But where do I even go to find that?
Saved by the Bell?
Probably-
Peacock. It's on Peacock now.
I gotta start paying for Peacock now.
Yeah, that's right. We'll steal somebody's
I mean,
account.
I was eventually going to
Somebody
to
we
watch.
follow is on Peacock.
That's true. Somebody give us their password.
We'll have to start posting these back on. We don't have our numbers like we normally have. We'll have to start posting these again on Twitter probably because
so?
we need to get our. Yeah, we need to get our.
We never really had that many on Twitter
guys,
anyway.
we need to get our YouTube up. Okay,
Yeah, that's true.
So our YouTube account needs to get up. We're trying to get Last Chance U.
Oh yeah, that's a great show. That's a great show.
All right, the second season of Last Chance U was the best thing I had ever seen at the time.
Yeah,
it was.
That was a really good
it was a lot. So the first season wasn't as in
star-studded. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't as in depth as the second season. The second season went into like more of like the backstory of the guys that were on there, and I was like, man, I was completely in it on the second season.
Yeah.
When it started getting to the independent stuff, I was like,
The first season at Independence was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I agree. The
second season at
was like a little
Independence
much.
sucked, and then, dude, I didn't like this last season. It was too intense for me, and it
I
wasn't
didn't like
like
it.
there was no like it wasn't fun at all. Like there was no point I ever like laughed.
Yep. I
Like,
know.
yeah, no, I didn't enjoy that much. But,
Yeah, so we need to get our YouTube followers up, guys. So
yes,
any help that you guys can have for that, we would really appreciate it. We're trying to get a lot more up there, and that's why we weren't posting this on Twitter like we were before, or Periscope.
Right.
We have the most followers that we have is actually on Periscope and Twitter. So
Periscope's not a thing anymore.
Well, it's through Twitter.
Right.
So when you post live on Twitter, it's through
just
Periscope.
Right. But it doesn't go through Periscope anymore. It just stays on Twitter.
I don't know. Well, no. It's on Twitter, but I'm saying
they bought out Periscope, basically.
Right. Exactly. Right. So any help that you guys can give us on that, we would appreciate it. We're going to be posting our YouTube links like crazy coming up here soon. We need to kind of transition over to there. Again, guys, we appreciate everybody checking in with us tonight. Jude, Huey, for sure. Our regular listeners, we really appreciate everybody.
Those were our 2 listeners.
Well, they were the 2 in the chat.
There's a 4th listener now.
We have a few listeners.
Who's the 4th?
I don't know. Who? Name yourself. No, we appreciate it. We know a lot of people watch this on the replay too, so we appreciate it, guys. We will be back next week. We're going to be doing some other shows too, so look out for the Durante Jones Bourbon Club. We're going to be getting that going too. I'm hoping to partner with a bourbon group too. That way we can. What do you got? You got something big?
All right, two breaking news just came up on my phone. One, Tebow retires from baseball, which I didn't know he was still even doing that. 2, Fernando Tatis agrees to 14-year, $340 million extension with the Padres.
Wow.
What are those numbers?
14-year. That sounds like a Bobby Bonilla contract.
How much is that?
Where eventually they're going to Fernando Tatis.
He's young though. He's really young.
22, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league.
14
easily.
year. Like
3.
They're gonna have to buy that out eventually.
14.
Like there's no way.
I mean, that is only $24 million a year. So that's not.
Wow.
I mean, that's not too much yearly, but yeah, no, that's a long time.
340. 340 is the biggest contract I've ever seen.
I've never seen that number ever.
Wow.
Like ever.
All right, guys. On that note, we're gonna go figure out some ways to make some more money.
Yep.
We appreciate everybody. This is One Team One Podcast.
Logging out.